Hey everyone, welcome back to Brazil Crypto Report. I'm your host, Aaron Stanley. We're coming to you from Mexico City, from the Bitso Stablecoin Conference 2025, doing some lightning rounds of interviews with some different stablecoin folks, founders, executives in the industry. And I'm joined today by Omid Scheybani, who is the VP of Partnerships at Conduit. It's great to have you here, Omid.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
So maybe give a quick TLDR of what is Conduit? What are you guys focusing on?
Yeah, Conduit as a company was founded in 2021. We are now a Series A funded company, a total of over $50 million raised. Our last round, $36 million announced in May of this year from a number of both crypto native and non-native crypto venture firms. What we do is cross-border B2B stablecoin payments with a very deliberate focus on emerging markets, specifically the corridors from Latin America into Asia, from Africa into Asia, as well as into the US and into Europe. I think the way we are differentiated as a business and the way we think of how we can build a very strong presence is by building very deep relationships in the countries in which we do pay-ins and payouts, and build a very strong network of banking relationships, banking partnerships, so that we have as much reach as possible into the local rails and reduce the dependency that nowadays a lot of payment processors have when it comes to paying out through SWIFT and other, as we know, more archaic forms of payment. So we currently have relationships with over 24 of banks. We have a very strong push as a business to further build out our banking stack. We want to have the strongest USD banking stack that there is. And the way I would maybe just summarize everything is what got me excited about joining Conduit was really the idea of becoming an operating system for payments that really has the potential to help businesses move away from SWIFT into kind of this new world that we're seeing around the stablecoin adoption, especially in payments. So that's what Conduit does today.
And I know you've been in crypto for quite some time now as well. Would love for you to give some context on your background and maybe how did you kind of come like full circle into focusing on stablecoins specifically?
Yeah, my first foray into crypto is slightly, I don't want to say shameful, but definitely appropriate one for back then. I was working in China, in Beijing, at a mobility company, and it was 2018. And at some point, they were like, "Hey, we want to do an ICO," and I'm like, "What's an ICO?" And we did that. That didn't obviously go well, and I thought, I was done with crypto at that time. But as I was moving back to the US right at the onset of the pandemic, I got an offer to join Robinhood. And Robinhood in 2020 wasn't particularly like a crypto-first company. It was mostly a trading company. But as I joined to head up the partnership work stream there, we increasingly looked into crypto. And lo and behold, Robinhood today is very much known as a crypto, not crypto second, almost like soon, hopefully, a crypto-first company. My work then entailed a lot of partnership work with all sorts of infrastructure providers, from the Alchemies and Fireblockses to the Circles and other companies and institutions in that space. Coming out of Robinhood, I was introduced to Kirill and the founder of Conduit, and it just so happened that we were both in Rio de Janeiro at Web Summit Rio. And what started as a conversation about working together on a project basis really became them liking me and me liking them, and really seeing this potential that there is in this market. And maybe a little bit about my background, it's been very international. And when I see a company that does B2B stablecoin payments in emerging markets, I kind of see myself in that company. So that was kind of the excitement for me to join and be part of that really undeniable shift that is currently happening in this industry and contributing to that.
And maybe talk a bit about what makes you really kind of excited about the Conduit vision, and and specifically, how do you kind of see Conduit fitting into this stablecoin ecosystem?
Yeah.
Where I think every week on LinkedIn, there's a new stablecoin ecosystem map that pops up with all the different logos and whatever. What's kind of the core value proposition that you guys are doing that you're doing better than anybody else, or that you're trying to do better than anybody else right now?
Yeah, maybe just from a macro perspective, I think generally the people would agree that there's a lot of companies in this space currently trying to become players when it comes for B2B stablecoin payments. And I think that's overall a great thing because, first of all, the pie is really big. There's space for multiple players. And I think it's generally beneficial for every individual player to see the entire ecosystem move into the right direction. I think the fact that we have the stablecoin conference now in Mexico City, it's a testament, I think, to where the industry is headed and how much opportunity there is for all the different individual players. I don't want to comment too much about the specific direct competitors that we have. What I definitely do want to comment on is just what we have found to be our recipe for success, which first and foremost is
P2P.me is the fastest way to buy and sell USDC in Brazil using Pix. It's direct, secure, and fully on-chain. Backed by multi-coin capital and Coinbase Ventures, P2P.me offers a compliant on- and off-ramp with ZK KYC and no hidden fees. You can easily use P2P.me to pay Pix QR codes in Brazil using your USDC balance. Just tap up, scan, and pay. Check out the link in the show notes to get started. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about our show sponsor, Avenia. If you're building a wallet, a crypto consumer app, or a global payment platform, Avenia is your bridge to Latin America. You can instantly connect to Pix, SPAY, and CBU using stablecoins with a single API. No banks, no FX desks, no SWIFT. Head over to avenia.io to learn about how you can move money globally with full compliance and real-time settlement. Now back to the show.
Our recipe for success, which first and foremost is focusing on the markets where stablecoins really have a demonstrable benefit, and that is undeniably the emerging markets, number one. Number two, not just focus on them with the intent, but actually also the boots on the ground. We are very intent about hiring people locally. We're also very intent about building relationships locally, not just with banks and institutions that we trust and that have liquidity and that we can work with, but also into the banking rails so that we can access those banking rails for faster payouts and pay-ins. You can have the stablecoin in the middle and be as fast as you want, but you still have to optimize the relationships that you have on the recipient side and then on the originator side in the first place as well. And that's really what we're focused on. I would add, I think, where we see the industry going, because you ask about all these maps that pop up, what I find so extremely exciting is just how big the opportunity is and that it's so undeniable. It's not one of those spaces where you're like, is this going to work out or not? The reality is it's going to work out. And I think everyone has a slightly different approach to how they think to position themselves to kind of gain market share. We're confident in kind of what I said, that these deep relationships that we're building and the people on the ground. And obviously, we believe that there is a lot of innovation that's still coming our way. Like take Brazil and take our relationship that we have there with Brasa and the opportunity to work with Brasa and the stablecoin that they're minting to start doing on-chain FX. And I think on-chain FX is really just in its beginning. And the more we have stablecoins on the other side of USD denominated stablecoins, the more we're able to pursue on-chain FX and the more we can all benefit from this innovation. So I'm still very excited about all the things that we're just really scratching the surface on. And yeah, that's kind of where I believe we're all headed.
And I think like one theme of this conference that has already been kind of prevalent, even though we haven't officially started the conference yet, but is this idea of like non-USD stablecoins they're finally seeming to kind of find a product market fit, where for many years these things were being popped up, they're being issued, and there just wasn't really any demand or liquidity for these things for a variety of reasons. And I think part of it was just maybe there just wasn't really a valid stablecoin euros, right? There just isn't really a huge demand for these things at this moment in time. But like I think we're starting to find that with like in Brazil, there's multiple real peg stablecoins. Like Bitso has like a Mexican real peg stablecoin. There's a lot of these things in Argentina. I guess I can't really speak to like other countries outside of Latin America, but I'm sure they exist. And actually, I know like Turkish lira. There's like that's doing a lot of volume. The Turkish lira peg stablecoin.
We see it in Africa too. Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, I guess that'd be my question. Is like that seems to be one of the themes this year. That's like prior this year, nobody was really paying any attention to these like non-USD peg stablecoins. But it seems like this is the year when maybe there's finally starting to be some interest and some more liquidity, and maybe there's from a business perspective, it's actually profitable to be operating with and issuing and market making with these things, et cetera. But maybe talk about what you guys are seeing on that front.
Yeah, we definitely see the initiation of these non-USD denominated stablecoins, but we also see the challenges that come with it, which is mostly around liquidity. And the lack of liquidity is always a function of lack of adoption, and that is very often driven by a certain amount of uncertainty from a regulatory perspective. So as we see, I think my prediction for the next 2-3 years is just stronger guidance on the regulatory side, therefore more confidence for adoption of also non-USD denominated stablecoins. And what I believe is going to happen is you're going to start seeing the adoption of those in some of the bigger markets first. I think Brazil will spearhead that. I think Mexico will follow. I wouldn't put Africa or African countries, and I don't want to say Africa in general. I think we specifically see a lot of interest in Nigeria. We see a lot of interest in Kenya and South Africa. These will, I think, be fast follows in the market for that. But it's not just the kind of the markets that we will see follow. It's also the transaction sizes, right? Because I think you can already do that to a certain extent with smaller transaction sizes. But if you do something that is multiple million, then it's going to be hard to find that liquidity. So I'm optimistic that we're getting there because I think the vision of on-chain FX is a very compelling one. And it's one that many businesses and also many companies playing in that space are pursuing or desire to pursue. But it will take time, both in the order of markets where we will see non-USD denominated stablecoin adoption, but also in the size of the transactions which will drive that adoption.
And then I want to go back to your previous life at Robinhood, which I think is a really, I've been following Robinhood pretty close since probably like 2017, 2018 when they showed up at the CoinDesk office and they gave us an interview, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of cool. Like a regular fintech company actually is paying attention to us, right? And it was clear that like Vlad Tenev and the team there had like these guys are like they're thinking about they're like, how can we push the needle? How can we innovate? How can we build the next generation of products for like the next generation of investors?
Yes.
They know who their market is. They know what they know what those people want. And I'm just very curious as to like there's I guess you're kind of seeing this Coinbase is kind of trying to become itself like more like Robinhood, and Robinhood's trying to become more like Coinbase. And maybe just having spent a few years in the trenches there and just kind of seeing U.S. kind of retail adoption like from the trenches there. What's the play for these platforms here? Like, is all this stuff just going to kind of like merge into one sort of business model, or how are these folks going to be differentiating themselves kind of moving forward?
I think I have a lot of respect for the specific strategy that Robinhood is pursuing in the market. There's the way I would describe the company nowadays is it's it has 9 business streams that generate more than $100 million ARR. And in certain ways, it is such a multi-product company today between the brokerage side, but also the payment and card side and the crypto side, that you can think of it as a house with multiple entrances. Once someone walks in, almost the door closes, or like they close the door in themselves, and then they have like a whole house to explore. And I think that strategy is really paying off now. It's paying off because, as a case in point, 50% of the users who probably signed up in the beginning for a regular trading account, 50% of them are also holding crypto. So the opportunity to cross-sell is pretty massive. Similarly with the Gold membership, which is an annual recurring subscription that the company has, you also see that there's an adoption of about 13%, which is a very remarkable number. And for a company that has such a strong and loyal user base to go and venture into the crypto space and add new features and add staking and then add other crypto elements to it, the ability to cross-sell is pretty meaningful. The audience that you see with some of the other players, like a Kraken, like a Coinbase, like a Binance, these are different audiences to begin with. These are people that very much started out with the intent of pursuing crypto as an investment or as a speculation, short-term speculation. And the profile there is a little bit different. And the ability to cross-sell into non-crypto products turns out to be a little bit harder. And that's why you don't see that many players to emulate what Robinhood has done going from brokerage into crypto, to see that from the other way around. Now, I think what the future holds, and I think I indicated that in my introduction about Robinhood not being a crypto-first player in 2020 when I joined, but now looking forward, increasingly kind of being perceived as such, is with the launch of their own chain, layer 2 chain, and the increasing push for tokenization of different asset classes, first and foremost outside the US and Europe, but now increasingly also hopefully in the domestic market. I think what you see is a world where Robinhood will have a very strong global presence where a lot of different asset groups, asset categories, not just crypto assets, but also non-crypto assets, RWAs, real-world assets, will be available on the chain through the exchange that Robinhood has acquired, Bitstamp, and made available outside the US. So the vision of being a global company will probably happen on the back of crypto more than on the back of the broker-dealer part of the business.
Super interesting. And and I actually forgot that they had just recently launched their own layer 2 as well.
That's right.
Like they've been making like just a lot of noise. Like there's the Bitstamp acquisition that went through a couple of years ago, which obviously got them into the EU with those licenses and whatnot.
Yes.
And
also into the institutional game.
Yeah. So they've been making a lot of. So they're not just like it's not just a retail. It's not just a place where you trade GameStop. Like it was back in 2020, right? It's like this has really evolved into like a pure powerhouse, and like you mentioned, it's sticky, right? Like you set up an account, and you're like, oh, I can do all these things. I can buy crypto, I can buy stocks, I can have can function as like a bank account. I can do all these other things with it. Like derivatives or whatever it might be eventually. I know that's at least on the roadmap if they're not already offering that. But it's a very interesting. Maybe the reason I find this interesting is just because in Brazil you're starting to have a lot of these kind of like finance, like banking super apps popping up as well. So things like Nubank, where you can, they have a crypto brokerage, right? And they have, I think it's something. Last I heard, it was at least like 3, 4, 5 million users holding crypto via that app. But it's got 100 million users in the country. So it's like it's kind of almost like solves financial inclusion just creating a very simple app that's like very simple for folks to use.
I'm sure you're a user.
I am. I do use it actually. Yeah. But I guess my complaint about it is that like there's almost like too much stuff in it, right? Like there's all these things you can do. It's like you can invest in all these kind of obscure like Brazilian financial products that I don't really know what they are, and they take so as a gringo, it's maybe not like the ideal financial product for me, but it is like, wow, like there's a lot of things you can do in this one simple app. And it's just a smooth, easy, like they know their audience, right? They know who they're targeting in the same way that I think, Vlad and team at Robinhood, like they know, and like they're not resting on their laurels. Like, okay, we've got them all trading GameStop. Let's just cash it in, No.
No, they certainly have a long-term vision. And it's really materializing, not just obviously in the stock and the way it's performing, but also, if I may share a very interesting stat that I was reading in a report, if you take the 2024 revenue that was generated on the retail trading, on the crypto side, and compare Robinhood with Coinbase, even though Robinhood only had 1/10 or so of the coins listed on its platform, it was about 50 or 60% of the revenue generation that Coinbase had in 2024. Now, if you take Bitstamp into it and the revenue generation that Bitstamp did in 2024, and you add that up together, you actually surpass Coinbase in 2024's retail revenue generation. So I'm happy to share that with you and your listeners as well. It was a very fascinating report. So I think that says a lot about kind of the endurance and the long-term perspective that this specific company, Robinhood, has been demonstrating and continues to demonstrate.
So on that front, do you see stablecoins becoming, maybe we'll kind of pivot this back to stablecoins here.
Yeah, please.
But like, do you see stablecoins becoming this like retail product that in the same way that maybe like what you guys are offering at Robinhood is a very like retail focused product? And I guess what I mean by that is, it seems like we're kind of hitting this diversion here, maybe a fork in the road where you have more kind of like, B2C stablecoin use cases. So some of these kind of global stablecoin wallet type things like Red Dot Pay or Cast and things like this. And then, but it seems like a lot of stablecoin activity is kind of just B2B behind the scenes type stuff, right? Where like the average user isn't going to know or care that there's a stablecoin involved in the transaction. They just want a lower fee and they want to settle quicker or whatever. But like, do you see, maybe I just asking you personally without like Robinhood or Conduit affiliation, but like, do you see these things ultimately becoming like, is there really a consumer play to this? Or do you think most of the action is going to continue to be on like the B2B side of things?
I do believe there will be action on the consumer side. I do want to caveat though that rightfully, I think there's doubt about the value and the use of stablecoins in the US because you already have the US dollar. Why would you need a digital version of it necessarily as a consumer? I think companies like Robinhood can pioneer what earning yield on stablecoins, meaningful yield on stablecoins could look like. Because, I mean, it's backed by the dollar, it's sitting in a reserve. Robinhood has great contracts and is earning a lot of yield on that to pass it on to the user. So from a yield product, yes, but the real value is international as a hedging tool, as a safe harbor against inflation for consumers in emerging markets. So that's really where I see the value for it. And we do know that the adoption of that already exists and is driving or is being driven forward. So I continue to believe that the 2C use case exists, but I think I would caveat it to say it's limited to the markets where you can really actually see value and value add from holding stables versus holding local currency.
Sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So Omid, just final thoughts here. We're just about to start this week here, Bitso Stablecoin Conference. Any thoughts on like the significance of this week? I mean, what's the significance of the fact that we're having like conferences devoted specifically to stablecoins, like no ICOs, no crypto, no pump and dump.
Yes.
You know, like we're just talking about coins that don't move up and down in value. Like there's a whole conference around just this. Like, what's the significance of that?
What I do fundamentally believe, and I said that at some point in today's conversation, is this undeniable future that we are navigating towards. It's no one is making a bet of will financial systems become more efficient and cheaper or not, right? Like we know they will. And I don't see any particular meaningful competitive bets where people say, oh, I don't believe it's the stablecoins that will revolutionize payments, but I think it's a different technology. I think there's a lot of consensus and rallying behind stablecoins as the technology layer that can actually bring that revolution of high, cheaper, faster, more efficient payments. So I think the presence of everyone coming together this week in Mexico City at this conference, I think is a testament to the progress that we have seen so far as an industry. And I think it's also a testament to the promise that exists and that all these companies are here to pursue. I'm very excited. I think there's a lot that we can collectively drive forward. I'm very excited about everything we can do as a company, specifically Conduit at this conference. We have a lot of potential clients, existing clients here that we're looking forward to meeting and exchanging relationship with and ideas with. But overall, as a whole, it's just very encouraging and motivating to see that we're all going into the right direction. Never thought I would say a conference is a good litmus test for kind of adoption and the direction that something is headed, but I definitely believe that looking at where we are today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Omid, best of luck to you and Conduit this week, and appreciate you coming on the show here. Appreciate you hanging out with us, and we'll be back with another interview at Mexico City, the Stablecoin Conference on Brazil Crypto Report.